Welcome all colleagues, absolutely lovely to see you. Thank you for joining today, and a huge congratulations from I think all of us to all of you for your You Made a Difference award nomination. Absolutely terrific. So last year, you'll remember, we were able to work very closely with the support of the Adam Brooks Charitable Trust Act, and great to see Shelley and other colleagues here today, and also the Albarada Trust. And that enabled us to really extend the You Made a Difference Award programme to a larger community across the hospital, and really celebrate the commitment and the amazing work of all of our teams and individuals over the course of the last 18 months. And I think, Mike, we're enormously grateful to ACT and also to the Albarada Trust that they've again set forward to be able to help us again recognise a larger community than we ordinarily would do. And that's really what today is about. This is really a chance to say thank you. Thank you for all you're doing for our patients, for your colleagues, and for the broader Cambridge and Eastern Region community. And I'm going to hand over just now to Mike. And then Shelley, it would be terrific to hear from you before David. I think we look at a short video, and then it would just be nice to have a bit of a discussion with colleagues about what the last year's been like and how they feel about the award. So huge well done, huge thank you. And Mike, I'll hand over to you. Mike.
Well, thanks, Roland, and hello everybody. And it's really wonderful to see. Well, I can't see everybody because I don't think I can keep scrolling through the screens. But I thank you for joining us today, and more particularly, thank you for all that I hope today's event is celebrating and acknowledging in what you are doing day in, day out for the Trust. So, I mean, I think we, just to add again the point, the thanks to the Albarada Trust, which I think is Kirsten Rising over in Newmarket, and Shelley will talk a bit about that. We're deeply, deeply appreciative of their support over a long time. And what makes this out is that, you know, we've been doing the You Made a Difference Award since 2009. So, you know, quite a long time now, 14 years that is, or something like that, isn't it? It's a long time. No, 12 years. You can tell by our finances and everything, I can't count. So 12 years. And, but the Albarada Trust have enabled us to provide You Made a Difference awards to far more people than we were doing in that period before, since 2009. And for me, the You Made a Difference award is really important in what this hospital is about. We all know that, you know, people up and down the hospital, day in, day out, day and night, no matter the time, are providing absolutely extraordinary care to patients, or to their families or their friends. And this is the way in which, as a whole hospital, we say, as a whole hospital, thank you. And one of the things, again, colleagues will have attended individual awards, and they'll know that, you know, I think this is really important means of saying thank you to colleagues who so deserve it. And it has become very much part of the way CUH operates. And during the 2-week nomination window in April for this series of awards, we received 184 nominations for individuals and 113 nominations for teams. I guess possibly some individuals have been nominated both as part of a team and as an individual, I guess, within that thing. And that's a huge number of people. And that's nominations that come from other people. So that is really heartfelt. That's really genuine. It's really sincere. And it doesn't surprise me at all as to that we had so many. The stories we had were really touching. Changes to working practice, with little notice, and I know that people have sometimes had to, at very short notice, personal sacrifice, which everybody has done to some degree, but the degree to which colleagues have had to undertake personal sacrifice to carry on delivering patient care over this period of time, going way and above what's in the job description. These are things that are kind of actually standard, if you like, within this extraordinary place, Addenbrooke's Hospital, but over this last few months have been super extraordinary. And that's why I think today is so important. Usually, as I say, this is why I'm grateful to Alvarado Trust. Usually we would reward 2 individuals every month and 1 team every quarter. But because of the Alvarado Trust, very great generosity and very great commitment to us and very great recognition themselves of the importance of Addenbrooke's Hospital to the region. They're just actually over the border in Suffolk, but we are important to the whole region. Via ACT, and I'm going to bring Shelley in a second, we've been able to increase this number to make the You Made a Difference Awards in May, which we're celebrating today. So the panel, out of all those number of nominations, were able to select 64 individuals and 49 teams for just exceptional contribution. And as ever with the You Made a Difference Awards, the criteria have been not just extraordinary, but they're absolutely living the values, the trust values of being together, teamwork, about being safe, about being kind, and about being excellent. And I know that, the last few months, over a year, have been exceptionally challenging. I know for many colleagues, there's a real worry about, am I providing safe care? Because the way in which I'm having to do it at the present time doesn't feel quite the way I would ordinarily want to do it. And I know that, and the board knows that. We know the challenges and the personal challenges and the personal worries that people have gone through, the sleepless nights or the sleepless days if you've been on night shift that people have had as you've worried about the care you've given, and you've worried about the experience of patients, and you've worried about the families not being there. These are worries that are shared by all of us. But I think everybody in this trust, I know as a board, I can say on behalf of the board, a huge and profound personal thank you for what you and other colleagues today, not with us today, have done to support patients, to save lives, to keep people as best as we can in such unprecedentedly, obviously in our careers, challenging times. So I'm really grateful to the Alvarado Trust for us to be able to demonstrate that thank you to so many. Thanks to the generosity of Alvarado, each individual, so everybody who's received, I don't know if you already know this or if this is going to come as a surprise, so I don't know if you already, but we'll be receiving a £200 personal voucher, which I hope will be some very material and obvious signal of gratitude and acknowledgement by the trust. And each team will receive a £300 voucher for use as the team itself sees fit. So I just want to conclude by saying a huge thank you. And on behalf of the whole board, we are deeply appreciative of stuff that you have collectively done and individually have done forever, but over this particular last few months especially. So thank you. So I'm going to now pass over to Shelley, who's the Chief Executive of ACT. And again, ACT and the hospital have a superb relationship. And I'm so grateful to ACT for brokering this with the Alvarado Trust. So over to you, Shelley.
Thank you, Mike. And hello, everyone. I hadn't quite realised there were 8 pages, and this is probably the largest Zoom I've ever been on with 189 participants. So I feel very privileged to be amongst you today. Just a word from ACT, really. We exist because you do such fabulous work, and you make the work of the fundraising team so much easier by delivering the valuable and amazing work that you do out in the community. And it's a privilege every day to meet with our donors and supporters who tell us a story about their interaction with Addenbrooke's. And you'll probably have heard of the 7 degrees of separation. It always feels like there's only 1 degree of separation with Addenbrooke's, because somebody always is familiar and has something special to say. And Alvarado gave us a substantial donation at the beginning of our COVID appeal, and we were able to go back to them, not because we were pushing for money, but they kept asking us what else they could do because they think that you are amazing. And before this call, I had a look back through the work that they've supported. And one of the emails from the director at the trust said to me, please let all staff know how much their work is appreciated. They are amazing. And this is why they've given this money for us to be able to do this. They've also supported wellbeing rooms and trauma release therapy exercises, care packages that you've had, research, and that's been great. But there's also an awful lot of other supporters that really value your contribution. I was in the office last week and someone came in to show me their new nose and to give me a contribution based on the work of the oncology team, but also the maxo. I'm not going to say it properly. You're all experts at big words, so I'll leave you to put the words together. But you know, to show me their new nose and to give thanks for the work, and that happens day in and day out. So today, I think, be proud of yourselves, be proud of your colleagues. We're massively proud of you at ACT. Anything the charity can do to help and support you, we try our very hardest. And any new ideas, we're happy to hear from you. And I just wish you all the very best, and my personal thanks for everything that you've done. You are amazing, so well done. You made a huge difference. I'm handing to David Werrett now, I think.
Shelley, thank you, and thanks to all of the people who contribute to your work and your work with us and the Albarada Trust on this specific thing. So thank you, Shelley, for brokering and making all of this possible. So what can I add? I can add huge appreciation and admiration, and indeed congratulations. I mean, I hope you know it's a fact. You've all been nominated. Somebody in our family has nominated you, your teams or as individuals, as shining out during an extraordinary time. I hope you feel that today. It is not something that individuals necessarily do lightly. It's a real thought through process, and I really share my admiration that they've shown through those specific nominations. CUH is a huge family. We are absolutely at our best when we pull together, hence together, safe, kind and excellent. And I think the breadth and depth and diversity of the people I'm seeing in front of me on these screens absolutely shines a light on CUH together at its very, very best. Families can be odd and wonderful, and there are people in our family who are very close to us and people, second cousin, whatever, who are less close to us. However it plays out in this wonderful family of CUH, I hope you know that you're playing a part in making some amazing things happen, as Shelley, Mike and Roland have highlighted. So I wanted to just, well, my contribution might be to say that the first time round when we did this quite considerable time ago during the pandemic, we produced a booklet of the nominations that were winner, and it stays on my desk. It stays with me because it is an inspiring read just to occasionally skim through. It's a document which will certainly stay with me. And one of the quotes in the document from a nominator of one of your previous recipients of this award was just a simple thing to say, I've never felt prouder to be part of something. I mean, in all of my CUH colleagues, and I absolutely plagiarise that quote and play it back to you today on this occasion. I've never felt prouder to be part of CUH. I'm in awe of all 191 now people who are on the screen in front of me. But there's another quote on the back of this booklet, and it's a quote from the NHS Constitution. And it's a quote which goes, it's very short. It says, the NHS touches our lives at times of basic human need when care and compassion are what matter most. The NHS has touched the lives at a time of basic human need. The NHS has made that aspiration a reality. If you replace the NHS with you, and you read that again, you touched the lives, our lives, at times of basic human need, when care and compassion are what matter most. You have touched lives at a time of basic human need. You have made that aspiration of the NHS a reality in the most extreme circumstances. That would be a message I'd want to give to all of you, that you've made all of those good goals and aspirations of a 70-year-old NHS an absolute reality at a time of extreme challenges, and I absolutely celebrate you and as teams and individuals in making that happen. So I applaud you, and we are going to show you a video which many of us will have seen before, but I think it says so much, and just reflect in your nomination and how this applies in this thank you video.
In the future, we will say, we did our part and stayed away. When the fight was raging on across the world, we all stayed strong. These people, they're not superheroes. They're ordinary, like you, like me, trying to get the numbers into the zeros. Across the world, they hold the key. While we are doing PE with Joe, PPE numbers are getting too low. Clapping on Thursdays, shopping online, gazing at the rainbow in the opposite window. Some of them are mums and some are dads. Some are making their own parents proud. Some of them deserve to be mentioned out loud. We think this new normal is hard for us. We've got a fear for the future and an ache for the past. But imagine you were on the front line, saving lives, being kind. They're fighting an enemy that cannot be seen, with compassion, knowledge, and keeping hands clean. They're doing this for you, for me, so that our lives can be virus-free. Thank you, NHS.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, David. So you'll all, I'm sure, have been at a You Made a Difference award before, and normally at this sort of stage we would know a great deal about the reason for the nomination, the reason for the award being given, and we would have a really great conversation with the team or with the individuals around the table around that's been made. Have the 64 individual and 49 team nominations in front of us now, because it would take a good deal of time to work through all of those. But I know many of you are always eager to jump forward and say, you know, what you think about the nomination with which you're connected, which may be you personally, or it may be the team or the individual that you've nominated. So this is really an opportunity for people to jump in and say what they think, and anything that they'd like to cover. And in terms of how I pick these people out, I've got about 8 screens in front of me. So what I'll do is, if you just want to wave your hand, if you'd like to say something, and I'll just flick through. And if nobody does, then I'm going to come to some colleagues who I know will have something to say. So don't feel you have to, but I'll find you. So if I just go through and see who, just wave your hand if you want to say something. Okay, so I'm just going to write people down. So Megan, I'll come to you in just a moment. Okay. Okay, Megan, and is that Joe Robson?
Jane Robson.
Sorry, Jane. Sorry, Jane. Lovely. I'll come to you in just a moment. Okay, and Costel. Thank you for bearing with me. Kelly, were you Kelly McPhee in Division C? Were you waving your hand or just reaching? You weren't waving. Oh, lovely. And then Colm, I can see. In that case, I can see Colm. I can see you. So I'll come back to you in a moment. Okay. Right. Okay, lovely. So Megan,
Roland, there's someone in Turner R2 waving in the middle. Yes, I don't know who that is. Turner R2. Have you got her?
So
in green, and just put a thumbs up.
Lovely. And I've got Sanders V. Sanders V. And who was it to T?
Turner A2.
Turner A2. Lovely, great. So lovely. So if we could go, so first of all hear from Megan, then Jane, and then Costel. So Megan, over to you.
Hi, so first of all, I'm Megan. I'm a Directorate Support Manager for Acute Services. And I feel very, very proud to have received this award and very proud to actually just work for Addenbrooke's. So I, very short and sweet, but want to say a huge thank you to everyone that nominated me and a huge thank you to everyone that is on this screen, but also is off screen, working on the wards tirelessly, working at the reception areas, Medi-Rest, behind the scenes. I think we all do a fantastic job every single day.
So, Megan, a huge thank you for that. And would you mind just saying a little bit about what you were nominated for?
So I was nominated for managing the EAU4 medical assessment unit setup and also supporting the N2 medical assessment unit setup. Also setting up Clinic 5 with a lot of my colleagues, and I spent a lot of time when COVID first kicked off supporting medical staffing, but also the consultants in acute medicine with the rotas. So making sure there was backup rotas, you know, calling on doctors as and when I could, and just generally being here to support the teams that I work for.
I mean, really wonderful to hear Megan, and making sure that we had the people that we needed where we needed them through this very testing period. It was just an absolutely extraordinary contribution. So Megan, thank you. And then could we come to Jane? Jane, would you like to say a little bit for us, please?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Jane Robson, and I head up the team that look after teenagers and young adults with cancer, known as the TYA team. I have the privilege of line managing, which I think is an absolutely fantastic team, and that's demonstrated by the fact that Amy Westrope, our TYA administrator and support worker, has received an individual award this month, and that my wonderful clinical nurse specialists, Charlie Granville George and Rosie Johnson, have been awarded a team award. And that is all around how fantastic and supportive, helpful and cheerful they've been throughout the pandemic, supporting our patients and our inpatient and day unit areas when it's through these really difficult times, and supporting our young patients whose anxiety levels have been extremely high during the COVID pandemic, as you can imagine. I'm also very privileged to be part of oncology, which has also got a team award. And I just want to say it is a fantastic department full of fantastic people, and I couldn't wish to work with anyone better.
And Jane, a huge thank you for speaking about oncology and the service being provided. Could you describe for us a little bit about what it was like for our patients over this period? And I think many of us can imagine, but it's just helpful to hear in a little bit more detail what your team were doing and what the individuals were doing.
Okay, so the young people with cancer, we're fortunate to have the Teenage Cancer Trust unit, but a lot of their support comes from the family unit. And during COVID, obviously with visitors being extremely restricted, they haven't had that support. So they've been incredibly isolated in hospitals, going through really life-changing diagnoses and challenging treatments. They've all been immunosuppressed, so have been highly anxious about their risks because they've all been in the shielding group. And it's been an extremely difficult time. And the TYA support team has sort of tried to step in and fill that gap where the support would normally come from family members and friends and peers. And they've tried to be there for people to help support them and reduce their anxiety, but it has been incredibly difficult for this patient group.
No, I think we can only begin to imagine what it must have been like for those patients, their family members, and how you've had to adapt and change to deal with a much higher level of anxiety, and people being concerned about what they will be exposed to if they came to the hospital. If they can't come to the hospital, how can you support them? So Jane, thank you very much for raising that, and I think for giving us a chance to celebrate that extraordinary team and those individuals. It's lovely to hear.
Thank you.
Costel, could we come to you and then we'll come to Colm?
Hello.
Hello, Costel. Hello.
So my name is Costel Bocancia, and I'm a theatre support worker in orthopedic. But on the second wave, I've been redeployed to the ICU. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to the ICU team. I find they're very professional people, very helpful. And if I was awarded, I think they have 80% of the contribution, because they receive me very well and they teach me a lot of things. So thank you very much. I want to say thanks to all the main theaters, which are where I work usually. And I'm really proud to be part of this big team. Thank you very much to all of you.
Costel, thank you so much for that. So could you describe a bit to us? So you normally work in main theatres, and you came across into working in critical care. Could you describe a bit about what that journey was like for you?
Well, at the beginning, obviously, was a big change. But during my stay there, become more, how can I put it, more challenging. And for me, was real progress, because I learned a lot of things from people from there. So I think it will be very helpful for me in my future profession. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but in the same time, I see it as a challenge and as something to progress.
I think that's right, isn't it, Costel? And wonderful to hear that the team was so supportive of you. And this was quite a frightening time for a lot of us, wasn't it? If you think about the last year, how did you handle that yourself? Did the team help you? Did you have support at home? How did that work for you?
Well, was like I said, at the first 2 weeks, to be honest with you, was really, really difficult, because you go in a place where you don't know anything about anything. So yeah, you feel hopeless and useless when you arrive there, because obviously there was difficult times and you feel like you want to help, but you don't know where to start. So that's why I think first weeks was really difficult, but after that, bit by bit, you start learning the place and what exactly do you need to do there. And with the help of all the ICU team, was until the end was quite good. And I find it really, really, really helpful for my own knowledge and my own progress.
And Costel, where are you working now, and what are your sort of plans?
Now I'm back in orthopedic theaters, and probably from September I've been accepted to start my ODP course. So that's why I'm saying my experience in ICU will be very, very, very helpful in my future career.
Yeah, well, really moving to hear, Costel, how you personally, went on that journey, and then also I think your reflections on the support that you received, very moving.
Was indeed, and I want to say thank you to everybody again. Really, really helpful.
Well, terrific, Costel, and there's lots of comments coming in the chat, I think, saying, well done, Costel, you're a star. So thank you, Costel.
Thank you all.
Lovely. And if we could come on to Com and colleagues, and then to Sanders B. Com.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hemant. I'm the Clinical Director for Periops and Critical Care, and have the unique pleasure in accepting this award on behalf of both critical care and anesthesia. Very, very grateful for the recognition, but as we all know, this recognition is really a recognition of a huge number of people outside that particular area who made this possible. Particularly like to mention theatres, the wards, and our surgical and medical colleagues who all came to help us to mount the response that was required from critical care and theatres during the pandemic. And also to make special note really of the staff that don't get mentioned a lot of the time, our admin staff, the medical engineering, the cleaners, those who provide food for us when we're working the shifts that we were. Without all that kind of infrastructure, none of this is possible. So a big thank you to everybody, and greatly appreciate the nomination.
So Hemantha, thank you very much for that. And could you just remind us of, if you look at general critical care and then neurocritical care, what we would normally be working at in terms of the number of people we'd be looking after?
I'm going to hand you over to Colin.
Great.
For that one.
Colin.
Hi, Roland.
Hi.
We would normally have 59 critical care beds. So during the COVID pandemic, we opened our first surge centre on J3 ICU on New Year's Eve at around 3 p.m. We filled it by the 6th of January, and then we opened A3, extended into the neurodosa area. We filled that within a week, and then we opened Surge ITU, which encompassed 4 orthopedic theatres and the orthopedic area. And by the 22nd of January, we had filled up to 104 beds. We stayed there for approximately 2 to 3 weeks, but we did not fully come out of surge till the 2nd of March. So the extent of the amount of patients we had to take care of from a very short period was essentially 2 weeks. And again, I would just like to extend my thanks to all the people you don't see. So the procurement team, again, the cleaners, and also our senior support staff, Claudia McFarlane, James Wheeler, and the clinical leads for the units, Dr. Ona O'Leary, Andy Johnson, Matron Jane Knowles, Lisa Enoch, and all the band 7s and 6s across critical care. And a special thank you to all the band 5s and healthcare assistants. That the work and toll of work that you went through was sincerely phenomenal, and we are ever so grateful for all your hard work. Many thanks.
And that's, again, very moving to hear just the sheer scale of what you did as a team and as a community. And I can see that Ronan is just to your left, and I can see Jane is elsewhere on the screen. Hello, Ronan, lovely to see you. And I can see Jane on one of the other screens as well, and colleagues from NCCU. Could you just describe to us a little bit about the patients that you were looking after across those 104 beds? Because lots of people who we would normally look after were coming through our units, as well as patients with COVID-19, both locally and in the region. So could you just give us a bit of a description of the sorts of people we were caring for?
Yes, so as Addenbrooke's was a surge centre, we were responsible for supporting the East of England Critical Care Network, which makes up approximately 14 intensive care units. So we were the go-to hospital when other ICUs needed to load level. I think one of the things that I'm always reminded during when you reflect back is there were certain ICUs in our region that were overwhelmed with COVID intensive care patients. And there's a little montage of a team from Addenbrooke's going down to retrieve a patient and bring them back. And there's 2 hypoxic patients waiting in the corridor to go into that bed. So the kind of key message you're always reminded of, we took 69 load leveling patients in this wave. And you're always reminded for every patient you took, you allowed to create another bed for another patient in our region who was suffering from COVID-19. The second thing I'd just like to point out is while we're taking care of COVID, we also had our own tertiary responsibilities: transplantation, hematology, HPB, vascular, head injury, and major trauma patients. So when you look, when we were at our highest peak, it was not just because of COVID, it also was because patients required major trauma intensive care, hematology intensive care. Thank you.
And if I could just another couple of questions. So it was very moving hearing from Costel as a colleague who came into the team and you supported and Costell clearly did an extraordinary job looking after people and stepping into that space. You also had your own teams who were helping people like Costell accelerate up to be able to work alongside you, bringing their own set of skills as well. Could you talk about what that felt like from your perspective, well established in that sort of 59 bed broad critical care community?
I mean, I think as many other people have said it better than I have, it took the whole hospital to run 104 beds. But I think having people like Costell, support staff from right across the trust, endoscopy, the wards, and the band 5 nurses that came and helped us, and was just simply phenomenal. The education team within critical care and also the education team in main theatres helped to provide a basis for what it was like to deliver critical care nursing. So without that support system, we would not have been able to achieve what we did in training approximately 650 staff members in basic critical care. This proved invaluable as the wave went on for almost 3 months.
Lovely. And then a final question, if I might, before I come on to Sanders V, and I'm sorry I don't know your full name. But final question, you talked, Colin, about the support of many of our corporate colleagues, and you highlighted procurement. I mean, what an extraordinary effort, making sure that we had all the PPE we needed at the right times, and really working through the night and driving around the Eastern region, finding whatever bits of equipment we needed. And this extended into our engineering teams. I know it's difficult to mention or highlight anybody in particular, but if you look outside of the immediate critical care community that Hemantha talked about, were there any moments that you can just let us know about that blew your socks off, if indeed you're wearing socks on a hot day?
Yes, I am wearing socks. Thank you. Basically, I think one of the things that stood out for me was the organization of the procurement team. They're learning from the first wave, where PPE and other consumable products were very difficult to come by. Preparation for the second wave was they almost had a second stock for us ready to go. So I think that level of organization from last June and July prepared us for this second wave. The other thing I'd like to point out is the clinical engineering team, Adam Armstrong's team, all of his staff. When we needed them most, they were there. So just for example, New Year's Eve, when we had to open our surge area, we had a delivery of ventilators. Their team worked from 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night to set up 50 ventilators that were required for the next almost 3 months. So I think they're the two, Alan, who took care of all our PPE, a massive thank you to him as well. But they're the two key areas that really stood out for me.
Well, thank you very much. And I think a huge thank you to all of your immediate community, Hemantha, Colin and Ronan and Jane and many others. Absolutely terrific. And also lovely to hear how you felt about the rest of the hospital and the support you were receiving. So if we could come to Sanders V, then Turner AT, and then Sarah Hardy, I can see you've got your hand up. So Sanders V, and if you could please tell me who you are, then I won't ever call you Sanders V again. Unless you've gone because I've misnamed you.
Mute. Hi, it's Vicky. I've changed it now.
Oh, lovely. Oh, good. Thank you.
You should
Vicky,
know that
lovely
name.
to see you. I'm so sorry.
I'm here just to say thank you for the You Made a Difference Award for 3 of our staff, HCAs, in outpatients, Brianna, Amy and Margie. They've always worked in outpatient clinics and for some time. I'm just reading from the nomination here. They were allocated to Red Ward D6, which they were not expecting, but each one of them took the time to be open-minded, visit the area and give it their best, despite being understandably nervous about working directly with patients who had COVID, especially as the skills required for the ward environment are very different from their day-to-day roles. we are very proud of them. Sorry, very, very proud of them. We all are. And everyone's done their best during this time. But I think for 3 people who come really out of their comfort zone, we are very proud of them. It's amazing what they did.
And Vicky, thank you. Could you describe what it meant for our patients, how it played through?
Obviously, so patients were coming in to the red wards. That so they would have been looked after by staff who were not used to being on wards, but they gained the skills, and I think it helped them greatly to be able to be looked after well and to be able to get home as soon as possible.
So I've just lost myself for a moment here, Vicky. So Vicky, so thank you. So that's what it meant for patients. And
yeah,
could you describe what a sort of day was like for this team as they came in?
I think it was obviously I wasn't on the ward, so in outpatients normally we see our patients and maybe here for an hour, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit less, and then they go home again. And we work not 9 to 5, but we have weekends off. These girls were working shifts that are out of their normal pattern. They were working weekends. They were working in some way much harder and in a very difficult area. And each one of them showed that they can change. You can mold yourself to any task that you need to.
I thank you, Vicky, and thank you so much for speaking up. And again, it's hearing about that transition of colleagues and the willingness with which they sort of step forward. And I remember coming in to outpatients with my own son, with Conrad, who's 10, and you're nodding and remembering as well. And it was hearing from some of the colleagues there of the move that they were expecting to make, and the willingness with which they were going to step across was very moving. So Vicky, thank you so much, and you'll have full permission to track me down for getting your name wrong. So I might start my next visit to outpatients. So be gentle when I come.
Okay, I'll let Jay know.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sure. But Vicky, a huge thank you and well done to that team.
Yeah. Outpatients are a fantastic team, but these 3 really did even more.
And then if we could come to Turner A2, then Sarah Hardy, and then Giles, I'd quite like to come to you, and maybe to Amanda as well. So Turner A2, are you there?
Hi, yes, Trish here from Estates Maintenance. First of all, just very grateful on behalf of the whole of Capital Estates and Facilities Management for the nomination and the award. There's a lot of us here and we really do appreciate being noticed, and thank you very much for that. I particularly wanted to just mention my colleague Andy Turner, who's one of the individual nominations. He's too shy to speak, and he was nominated by the theatre team for all the work he did over the last year, helping with the ventilation side and giving expert advice. Well, loads of things we did last year, but Andy particularly has been recognised by the theatre team, and so well done, Andy.
Thank you.
On behalf of the whole of CEFM, I'd also think we'd like to thank the whole trust for the patience and understanding in the face of what everybody else was going through, for helping us deliver some of the measures we had to do to provide safe working environments and high levels of cleanliness across the site, not just from estates maintenance, but across portering and the linen room and from the housekeeping team. So it goes on and on and on, as you know. So thank you very much to everybody.
Lovely, Trish. Thank you, and a huge thank you to an absolutely extraordinary team that's done everything as you say. I mean, I don't even know where to start. From COVID secure environment through to cleanliness, through to security, through to, across your broader community, the build of the 120 beds we're seeing going in now that will help us through the next phase. But Trish and Andy, could you say a little bit more about the work that happened supporting theatres? That would be helpful for people to hear if that's okay with you, Andy and Trish.
Go on, Andy, go for it.
Yeah, no, we supported the theatres with the ventilation, because as we know, ventilation in theatres is one of the most important parts of it. Without the ventilation, we won't be able to have the right dilution, and it will prevent us from giving that care or the protection for infection. So when we had the issues with COVID, and when ICU was going to come down and use the 16 to 19 as their surge area, we did everything that we could do to make sure that the ventilation was sufficient, and also was providing that area with the right care, kind of quality. So I know that capital projects installed doors so that we could have a separation between main theatres and theatre 16 to 19, so that we could put in air scrubbers and try and clean the air in the lobby area, so that you didn't have the cross-contamination between the ICU department and theatres, which is really important, because we didn't want the rest of even though the theatres are positive pressure, we didn't want that cross-contamination. So it was really important to try and get the balancing right there. And that's what we did. And we also made sure that all the verifications were up to date, and that all the theatres were running on the ventilation side at their optimum. So yeah, we made sure that, I mean, it wasn't just myself, it was everyone else. We had the specialist contractors that came in at a drop of a hat. We had the maintenance teams that were, did a lot of the maintenance. They did a lot of the repairs, because, we're working with a lot of plant that's really old. So the maintenance was key as well. So in general, we all did a really fantastic job, I think.
Yeah. So Andy, thanks for that description. And I've been up in what in my head was a kind of roof space with some of the equipment you're talking about. And obviously all of our Adam Brooks and Rosie equipment is absolutely first class and top notch. But some of it could perhaps make a sort of a showing in the long service awards for the hospital.
Oh yes, definitely.
Museum pieces.
And I know that in the best of times, it's quite difficult to keep some of those bits of kit running. Well, you keep them running, but you have to turn yourselves inside out to do it. So could you talk about any of the particular challenges you overcame?
Yeah, I mean, there's, with COVID, a lot of the specialist contractors didn't want to come to site. A lot of them had policies where they work in other hospitals or other clinical environments, and they didn't want to have that cross-contamination. So a lot of the work had to be done in-house. There was we also were battling for specialist equipment. So a lot of the teams, they really, really pulled together, and they provided additional ideas as well, which is, quite important. A lot of people, put their heads together and worked their way around the problems together, which is part of the teamwork. And that's how we operate down in the States. If we don't operate as a team, we don't get anywhere, because individually, we're weak, but as a team, we're really strong.
No, absolutely terrific to hear, Andy and Trish, and to recognise the actually enormous complexity in making sure that we were all able to work and provide care in a safe environment. And if you really get cut to the chase, if you're not doing what you're doing and working around those problems, as Claudia knows, theatres go down, they stop working. And we can't provide the care that we need to, and that could be anybody from a patient needing a transplant through to somebody who's had a terrible road traffic event on the M11. So a big thank you, Trish, for the overarching piece that Capital Estates Facilities have delivered and for highlighting that, and Andy for your work with your team and all of your colleagues.
Yeah,
so if we come
I'd like to say something as well. The matrons in the theatre are pinnacle in organising all of this, and I must say that they are really fantastic as well.
No, absolutely, an extraordinary community, and thanks for raising that, Andy, and highlighting that community. If we come to Sarah, and then we're going to just go very briefly to Giles before we draw to a close at 3 o'clock. So Sarah, you've had your hand up, and it's lovely to see you.
Hi, yeah. So I'm the senior sister on Ward N2, and I wanted to just provide a special thanks to the entire team on N2. I joined my first day on N2 as a senior sister was March 18th last year, where we started the transformation into being the COVID assessment unit. It can be quite a difficult time for any ward team to receive a new line manager. But on top of that, I was turning the whole thing upside down with the help of the operations team and creating us into being an assessment unit and not an inpatient ward anymore. I've told the team time and time again, their adaptability and their flexibility has just blown my mind. They were always willing to learn, and we continue to adapt. We're still working in this way, supporting the emergency department, especially with the capacity issues at the moment. So that's the new challenge, is how we get around the flow and the blockages into the assessment units. But each and every one of the staff members on N2, I'm incredibly proud of, and I just wanted to highlight that.
Well, Sarah, thank you. And wow, thank you for joining on March of last year. That's definitely a time for a job change. Could you remind us what N2, to the extent you know, did before, the sort of people you were looking after before COVID struck?
Yeah, so the ward I'd applied for was, it was an infectious unit. So obviously N2 is made up of 22 side rooms.
Yeah.
So pandemic strikes, it's the perfect place to bring these patients into. Prior to COVID, they worked throughout the winter as a winter ward, so for flu patients amongst the hospital that required isolation. They could quite often turn the entire ward over in a day back in those days as well, to try and make sure that we're isolating the patients that require isolation. And then through the summer, it was a bit of a different model where it was supported with respiratory patients, and they had some haematology patients as well. So it was always a bit of a mixture, but an inpatient ward. So to start receiving ambulances and receiving GP referrals and being another part of that front door system, it's been a huge change. And of course, we're in the PPE, which we continue to do. That's been fun in this heat. We're lucky to have air conditioning, but it's the way the nurses have continued to learn and continued to increase their skills on assessing patients and moving the patients and identifying the patient's needs has just been incredible. And I know that coming into winter again, we'll face more challenges. But we as a team know that we can all do it with the support of our operational team. Our matron, Claire Chapman, it's been amazing, and the medical teams being taken over by the acute medical team, and the support from them has been incredible.
Lovely, Sarah. Well, a huge thank you and well done to you stepping into that leadership role at a time of such profound change. And I think N2 was such a central, pivotal part of our response, wasn't it? Through both first wave and then onwards. So Sarah, we're almost out of time, but Giles, could I just come to you to offer a perspective, because you were at the heart of a lot of the things that we were doing. Giles, are you still with us?
I am, yep.
Would you just be able to offer a perspective, and then we'll draw to a close?
How how to do that doesn't undo all of the amazing stuff that people have said. Well, so look, I guess
you're at the heart of testing, vaccination.
Yeah, I'm championing the team that was behind the front line, the thin line behind the front line, trying to keep all of our colleagues safe. The team that had to keep its normal clinical activity going, like other services, protecting our staff as we always do. But Roland, overnight we had a patient population on our books of 11,000, and that was the reality. Suddenly, this little service, occupational health, and the COVID task force, COVID security task force, we had a patient group of 11,000 to do something with and support. Within 12 hours, an incident room was established. Within a week, there was pathways. Within a month, 10,000 risk assessed. Within 6 weeks, there was one of the first asymptomatic testing programs in the country. 900 plus positive staff during the last year, of which the team have contact traced all of them within 24 hours and saved many other staff from testing positive. And the core team alongside have maintained all of our activity. And here we are 15, 16 months later, and this little specialist service that sits within corporate has delivered over 200,000 episodes of care to our CUH family, which is quite remarkable.
I mean, Giles, thank you very much. And I think it's almost too much to talk about. You know, what you achieved as a community and all the areas of support that you've delivered to keep all of us safe and well. And I think alongside that, Giles, you know, feeling so safe and well. And you and I have talked a lot, I think, over the last 18 months, you know, on the back of knowing each other since the you're very good, I think, at helping all of the organisation understand how people were feeling and what we needed to do to support them. So yes, there was the hard edge. Yes, we're going to support around vaccine. Yes, there's psychological support in areas that are under particular pressure. But there was another very big piece, Giles, that you and your team brought, which was that sense of what are the things we need to be talking about as an organisation and leaning into. So Giles, thank you. So it's very difficult, I think, to draw this to a close. We could go on all afternoon, and the chat is so full of, I think, wonderful comments and celebrations of what people have contributed. But I think, you know, Mike, we said we'd try and finish at 3 o'clock. We're a little bit over. So I'd just like to draw to a close by saying what an extraordinary group of people. All 11,000, and then this community who are on this call today. And I think it's been very moving and powerful to hear the staggering range of contribution and leadership that people have shown that, you know, have enabled us to do absolutely fabulous things to look after a very wide-ranging population at a time of, you know, profound challenge. So a huge well done and thank you. And what I'd just like to do now is if we just come off mute for a moment, if it's easy for you to do that, and just give a big round of applause. That would be lovely. So thank you and well done.
It's weird.
I can hear Trish and Andy there. That's good. That's good. The mighty capital estates and facilities. Good, lovely. So as well as all of the vouchers and the that people are going to be receiving today, you're obviously going to be receiving the certificate to commemorate the win, and that will be getting through to you very, very soon. So in the meantime, a huge thank you and well done. Very much look forward to seeing you all around the hospital. And if you haven't bumped into people recently, do just drop a quick email, because, you know, we're in a COVID secure way. We're very keen to start to come and really listen to people about their experiences and think about how we can support people more over the next couple of years. In the meantime, I'm so proud to be a part of this family. You're terrific. Have a lovely, lovely rest of your day and week, and enjoy the sun when it comes back out properly. Lovely and goodbye.